Waiter arrested for theft, but when they check the cameras, he gets $1 million settlement. Jason Taylor felt his heart racing as the handcuffs tightened around his wrists. The whispers from the customers at the Ocean Breeze restaurant echoed around him like a nightmare he couldn't wake up from. 5 years working at that place, treating every customer like family, and now he was being led away like a common criminal. The accusation had been made by the manager, Rachel Wilson, just 15 minutes earlier. She assured the officers that she had seen Jason stealing $3,000 from the main cash register. The words still echoed in the 26-year-old's mind. "I saw him taking the money with my own eyes," Rachel told the officers, pointing at Jason. "I'm absolutely certain." "Ma'am, this is a mistake," pleaded Jason, trying to keep his voice steady despite the tremor. "I would never do that." "Please, let me explain." "Son, you'll get your chance to speak at the station," replied one of the officers, guiding him toward the exit. The looks from the regular customers Jason served daily with affection now carried suspicion and disappointment. Mrs. Henderson, a 70-year-old lady who always ordered an extra strong coffee, turned her face away as he passed. Mr. Williams, who had celebrated wedding anniversaries at the restaurant for years, shook his head in disapproval. Jason was the sole provider for his 68-year-old mother, Mrs. Rodriguez, who was battling a serious heart condition. His two sisters, 17-year-old Emma and 15-year-old Olivia, depended entirely on him for their studies and a better future. His waiter's salary and tips were all the family had. On the way to the station, Jason tried to understand how this was happening. He knew every corner of the Ocean Breeze, every procedure, every rule. He had never even considered touching money that wasn't his. His mother always said that honesty was the most precious thing a person could have. At the Williamsburg Precinct Station, Jason learned that the bail set was $15,000, an impossible amount for someone who earned 2 minimum wages a month. His eyes filled with tears when he realized he would spend the night in a cell. "My son, I'll get the money somehow," said Mrs. Rodriguez when she arrived at the station 3 hours later, accompanied by her daughters. Her gray hair was disheveled and she was visibly trembling. "Mom, you don't have that money," whispered Jason through the bars. "Don't worry about me. Take care of yourself." Olivia, the youngest, cried non-stop. Emma, trying to be strong, held her mother's hand. The family had never been in such a desperate situation. Ashley Johnson, a fellow waitress who had worked at the Ocean Breeze for 3 years, showed up at the station late in the afternoon. She had finished her shift and decided to visit him. "Jason, there's something very strange about this whole story," whispered Ashley, looking around to make sure no one was listening. "I checked the cash register just 10 minutes before Rachel made the accusation. Everything was normal, the numbers matched perfectly." "What do you mean?" asked Jason, feeling a spark of hope. "It was a normal amount of business for a Friday. There wasn't even that much money in the main register. Rachel said you took $3,000, but I'm sure there wasn't even half that amount in there." Jason began to reflect on the day's events. He had arrived at work at 11 in the morning, as always. He greeted all his colleagues, put on his uniform, and started serving tables. He hadn't gone near the cash register even once. "Ashley, can you testify to that?" asked Jason. "Of course I can. And there's one more thing. Rachel was acting very strange today. She was nervous the whole time, sweating, looking all around. This isn't like her." The public defender, attorney Sarah Mitchell, arrived early in the evening. She was a woman in her 50s, with a tired face that spoke of dealing with difficult cases every day. Her briefcase was overflowing with documents and she seemed overwhelmed. "Jason Taylor," she asked, adjusting her glasses. "I'm your public defender. Tell me exactly what happened today." Jason recounted the whole situation, from the moment he arrived at work to the instant he was handcuffed. Attorney Sarah took quick notes on a yellow legal pad. "Was the complaint made specifically by the manager, Rachel Wilson?" asked the attorney. "Yes, ma'am. She said she saw me taking the money from the cash register." "And did you go near the cash register at any point today?" "No, ma'am. I only work waiting tables. I never touched the register." Attorney Sarah stopped writing and looked directly at Jason. There was something in her eyes that wasn't there before. "What time exactly did this happen?" "Around 2:30 in the afternoon." The attorney leafed through some papers she had brought and cross-referenced information. Jason, according to the report the manager gave, you were alone near the cash register at 2:35. But here I have the statement from the waitress, Ashley Johnson, who came to see me before I came here. She said that at 2:30 you were serving a birthday party table with 15 people, is that correct? Yes, exclaimed Jason, feeling his heart race. It was Mrs. Thompson's birthday. I served the cake, we sang Happy Birthday. I took a picture of the whole family. There are at least 10 people who can confirm I was there at that time. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to leave a like and especially to subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing, Attorney Sarah closed her briefcase and stood up. Jason, I'm going to immediately request the security camera footage from the restaurant. If you were serving the table at that time, the cameras will prove your innocence. The restaurant has cameras everywhere, ma'am. They'll show I never went anywhere near the register. The next day, Saturday morning, Attorney Sarah returned to the police station with a worried expression. Jason was anxious for the answer about the cameras. Jason, we have a problem, said the attorney, sitting down in front of the cell. I spoke with the restaurant owner on the phone. He's traveling in Aspen and won't be back until Monday. But the manager, Rachel, informed me that the camera system was down for maintenance exactly yesterday. Down for maintenance? What do you mean? Asked Jason, incredulous. Ma'am, those cameras never stop working. Mr. Anderson, the owner, is very strict about that. That's exactly what seems strange to me. A very convenient coincidence. Jason spent the weekend in the cell, tormented by thoughts of his family. Mrs. Rodriguez had called to say her blood pressure had risen dangerously and she had to be medicated. Emma had missed school to take care of her mother, and Olivia wouldn't stop crying. The worst part was the looks from the other inmates. Some mocked him, calling him little restaurant thief. Others felt sorry for him, knowing he was probably innocent. Jason could barely eat or sleep. On Monday morning, a young woman of about 25 appeared at the police station. She had brown hair tied in a ponytail and wore simple but elegant clothes. Her eyes showed determination. My name is Jennifer Parker, she told the officer in charge. I'm the daughter of the owner of the Ocean Breeze restaurant and a law student at Columbia University. I've come personally to check on the status of the security cameras. Jason watched her from the cell, feeling a mixture of hope and nervousness. Jennifer was carrying a briefcase and a laptop. Miss, the manager of the establishment already informed us that the system was under maintenance, said the detective. Exactly, and that's why I'm here. My father is extremely particular about the security system. He would never allow the cameras to be turned off, especially on a busy Friday. I want to verify this personally. Attorney Sarah Mitchell arrived shortly after and joined the conversation. The two women seemed to be aligned in their search for the truth. Jennifer, do you have access to the system? Asked the attorney. Yes, I do. My father gave me full access when I started helping him with legal matters. If the cameras were working, I'll find out. Jason felt a wave of relief. Finally, someone with real power to investigate was on his side. Jennifer opened her laptop and began accessing the restaurant's security system remotely. Her fingers flew across the keyboard as she navigated through the files. Strange, she murmured after a few minutes. The system shows the cameras were working normally yesterday. There's no record of any scheduled or performed maintenance. Does that mean there's footage? Asked Attorney Sarah Mitchell. There should be. Let me check Friday's files. Jennifer continued typing, her expression growing increasingly serious. Suddenly, she stopped and looked at the two people in front of her. Friday's recordings were manually deleted from the system at 9 o'clock in the evening. The silence that followed was deafening. Jason felt his heart beating so loudly he was sure everyone could hear it. Deleted by whom? Asked the attorney. Jennifer checked the system logs. By the admin account of manager Rachel Wilson. Jason stood up in his cell, his legs trembling. She deleted the recordings, but why? Because they prove your innocence, said Jennifer, looking directly at him. And anyone who deletes evidence is hiding something very serious. Attorney Sarah Mitchell turned to the detective. Doctor, we need to summon manager Rachel Wilson immediately. We have evidence of evidence destruction. Wait, said Jennifer, raising her hand. I know my father's system well. He always keeps an automatic backup on a secondary server, precisely to avoid this kind of situation. The recordings might still be there. Jason felt tears of hope rolling down his face. For the first time in 3 days, he believed the truth could be uncovered. Jennifer worked intensely on her laptop for another 40 minutes. Occasionally, she commented on corrupted files and denied access attempts, but she persisted determinedly. "I did it!" she finally exclaimed. "The recordings are here on the secondary backup. Someone tried to delete them too, but they didn't know the system as well as I do." "Can we view them now?" asked attorney Sarah Mitchell. "Yes, I'll play back the exact time when Rachel claimed Jason was stealing." Jennifer turned the laptop so everyone could see the screen. The image showed the inside of the restaurant on Friday at 2:35 in the afternoon. On screen, Jason was clearly seen serving a large birthday table, exactly as he had reported. He carried plates, chatted with customers, cut the cake, and joined in singing "Happy Birthday." At no point did he approach the cash register. "Look here," said Jennifer, pointing to another camera angle. "The main cash register is completely empty at this time, no one near it." But the most shocking revelation was yet to come. Jennifer fast-forwarded the recording to 3 o'clock in the afternoon. "Look at this," she said, her voice trembling. On the screen, manager Rachel Wilson was clearly seen approaching the main cash register. She looked around, checking if anyone was watching, and then opened the money drawer. Jason couldn't believe what he was seeing. Rachel was taking several bills from the register and putting them in her purse. Then she took some bills from her own wallet and placed them in the register, probably to disguise the amount she had taken. "My God," whispered attorney Sarah Mitchell. "She was stealing and blamed Jason to divert attention." "There's more," said Jennifer, continuing the recording. "Watch what happens at 3:20. The image showed Rachel approaching Jason, who was still serving the birthday party table. She was saying something in his ear, pointing toward the register, and Jason shook his head several times. "She was trying to involve him somehow," observed the attorney, "maybe asking him to handle the register, and he refused. This explains why she waited until later to make the accusation," concluded Jennifer. "She needed time to devise the plan to blame him." The detective, who had watched everything in silence, finally spoke up. "With this evidence, I will immediately issue an arrest warrant for manager Rachel Wilson and the immediate release of Mr. Jason Taylor." Jason broke down in tears. 3 days of nightmare were finally coming to an end. But the feeling of relief was mixed with anger over everything his family had suffered unnecessarily. "Jennifer," said Jason through the bars, "how can I thank you for what you did for me?" "You don't have to thank me, Jason. Justice was being denied, and I couldn't allow that. My father always taught me that our restaurant is a family and family protects each other." 2 hours later, Jason was finally free. Mrs. Rodriguez, Emma, and Olivia were waiting at the police station door, and the reunion was emotional. His mother seemed to have aged years in just 3 days. "My son, I knew you were innocent," said Mrs. Rodriguez, hugging him tightly. A mother always knows. "Jason, are you okay? Did they hurt you?" asked Olivia, her eyes still red from crying. "I'm fine, little one. Everything is settled now." But Jason knew that the consequences of those 3 awful days would last a long time. His reputation had been publicly shaken. Neighbors whispered when he passed by. Some people on the street looked at him with suspicion. Emma had missed 3 days of school and was worried about the upcoming exams. Olivia developed constant anxiety and didn't want to leave the house. Mrs. Rodriguez had to increase the dosage of her heart medication. Financially, the situation was desperate. Jason lost 3 days of work and tips. The household bills were overdue, and Mrs. Rodriguez's pharmacy bill had tripled with the emergency medications. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing. On Tuesday morning, Jason returned to the Ocean Breeze restaurant for the first time since his arrest. His co-workers welcomed him with a mixture of relief and embarrassment. Many had believed the accusation and now felt guilty. "Jason, man, I'm sorry," said Michael, the head chef. "I should have defended you from the start. I've known you for 5 years, and I know the kind of person you are." "It's okay, Michael, you had no way of knowing the truth. Ashley approached him with tears in her eyes. "Jason, I feel terrible. I knew something was wrong, but I should have insisted more. I should have shouted, made a scene. Ashley, you were the only one who tried to help me from the very beginning. I am eternally grateful for that." The atmosphere in the restaurant was tense. The employees whispered among themselves, the customers seemed uncomfortable, and Rachel's absence created a strange void in the air. Mr. Robert Anderson, the restaurant owner, had returned from his trip the night before and was extremely shaken by the whole situation. He was a 58-year-old man, bald with a graying mustache and always elegant posture. He had built Ocean Breeze from the ground up 15 years ago and considered it his life's work. "Jason," said Mr. Anderson, calling him into his office, "I have no words to express how sorry I am for what happened. An injustice of this magnitude should never have occurred in my establishment. Mr. Williams, you had no way of knowing. You were traveling. But it was my responsibility to have trustworthy employees in leadership positions. I completely failed by trusting Rachel." Mr. Anderson stood up and walked to the window overlooking the restaurant's main dining room. "Jason, you have worked here faithfully for 5 years. There has never been a single complaint about your conduct or honesty. On the contrary, the customers always praise your service. Thank you, Mr. Williams. This job means a great deal to me and my family. And that is exactly why I want to talk with you about how we can repair the damage that was done. You were publicly humiliated. Your family suffered. Your reputation was shaken. This cannot stand." Jason felt a mix of hope and apprehension. He truly needed help to overcome the consequences of the situation, but he didn't want to seem self-interested. "Mr. Williams, I just want to keep working and taking care of my family." "I understand, Jason, but let's go beyond that. First, you will receive full payment for the days you were in jail, including the average tips. Second, I will pay for psychological treatment for you and your family for as long as necessary. And third, I am promoting you to customer service supervisor with a 40% raise." Jason was speechless. It was more than he could ever have imagined. "Mr. Williams, that is very generous, but..." "No, Jason, this is not generosity. It is justice, and I'm not finished yet." Mr. Anderson went back to his desk and picked up some documents. "I spoke with my attorney this morning. You have the right to sue the restaurant for emotional distress, wrongful arrest, defamation, and psychological harm. Instead of waiting for a long and draining lawsuit, I want to make an immediate out-of-court settlement." Jason felt his heart race. He had never thought about suing the restaurant, but he knew his rights had been violated. "What kind of settlement, Mr. Williams?" "I am offering compensation of $120,000 paid in cash. It is the amount my attorney estimates is fair, considering all the suffering caused." $120,000 was more money than Jason had ever seen in his entire life. With that sum, he could pay off all the family's debts, pay for the best treatment for Mrs. Rodriguez, and still ensure his sisters finished their studies. "Mr. Williams, I accept the offer. I accept the thank you for your honesty and for the justice. There is one condition, Jason. You must continue working here for at least the next 2 years. I need to rebuild the restaurant's reputation after this scandal, and having you here, being treated with the respect you deserve, will help with that." "Of course, Mr. Williams, it will be a pleasure to continue working here." The two men shook hands, sealing an agreement that would completely change the life of Jason and his family. Meanwhile, the investigations into Rachel Wilson continued. The detailed analysis of the security footage was revealing a pattern of suspicious behavior that stretched back months. Jennifer Parker had decided to analyze the footage from the last 6 months to check if other irregularities existed. What she discovered was even more shocking than she had imagined. "Daddy, you need to see this," said Jennifer in Mr. Anderson's office on Wednesday morning. "Rachel had been stealing from the restaurant for at least 4 months. How so? Look at these recordings. In March, April, May, and June, there are at least 8 occasions where she took money from the register improperly. Always the same pattern. She looked around, took the bills, put them in her purse, and then put some of her own bills back to cover it up." Mr. Anderson watched the recordings in silence, his expression growing darker by the minute. "How much do you estimate she stole in total?" Counting all the instances I was able to identify, about $25,000. $25,000, Mr. Anderson repeated, disbelief in his voice. And I trusted her completely. I promoted her to manager just 8 months ago. There's more, Dad. I spoke with some employees this morning. I found out Rachel had been making inappropriate advances toward Jason for several weeks. What kind of advances? Apparently, she was romantically interested in him and made awkward passes at him. Jason always politely turned her down, but she kept insisting. Ashley told me she even witnessed a very uncomfortable situation last week. Mr. Anderson leaned back in his chair, taking it all in. So she'd been stealing for months, harassing an employee, and when she got rejected, she decided to get back at him by framing him. That's exactly what seems to have happened. Jason's arrest was an act of personal revenge, as well as an attempt to divert attention from her own crimes. The depth of Rachel's malice was becoming clear. This wasn't just a false accusation made in the heat of the moment. It was a calculated plan to ruin an innocent man's life for personal reasons and to cover up her own wrongdoing. Jennifer, turn all this evidence over to the authorities immediately. I want her to answer for every dollar she stole and for every moment of suffering she caused Jason and his family. On Thursday, Rachel Wilson was arrested at her home in Tribeca. The operation was carried out discreetly, but word spread quickly among the restaurant staff. Jason was at work when he got the call from attorney Sarah Mitchell informing him of the arrest. He felt a mix of relief and a strange sense of satisfaction seeing justice served. Attorney, what's going to happen to her now? Jason, she's being charged with grand theft, false reporting, slander, defamation, and tampering with evidence. These are serious charges that could result in several years in prison. What about the $25,000 she stole from the restaurant? That will be handled in a separate civil suit, but I'm sure Mr. Anderson will want full restitution, plus damages for the harm done to the business's reputation. Jason hung up the phone and went back to work. He felt as though a huge weight had been lifted from his shoulders. The truth had come out, and the person responsible for so much pain was finally facing the consequences. Still, life was far from back to normal. The emotional scars ran deep and would take time to heal. Mrs. Rodriguez still woke up in the middle of the night worried, remembering those 3 days when she didn't know if she'd see her son again. Emma became distrustful of people in general and grew extremely anxious whenever Jason was late coming home from work. Olivia had constant nightmares and refused to leave the house alone. Jason started therapy with a psychologist, Dr. Elizabeth Foster, who was recommended by Mr. Anderson. Sessions were every Wednesday, and they were helping him process all the built-up anger and frustration. Jason, it's natural to feel angry about what happened, Dr. Foster said during one session. You were the victim of a terrible injustice, but it's important not to let that anger consume you. Doctor, sometimes I wonder what my life would be like if Jennifer hadn't discovered the recordings. I could have been convicted of a crime I didn't commit. But that didn't happen. The truth came out. Focus on that. I know, but the feeling of helplessness still haunts me. For 3 days, my word meant nothing. I told the truth, but nobody believed me. And that hurts deeply, I understand. But look around you now. Your family is well, you have a better job, better financial conditions. The suffering you went through brought growth. Dr. Elizabeth's words made sense, but Jason knew that full recovery would take time. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. At the end of July, 2 months after Ashley's arrest, the case went to trial. Jason was called to testify, as were Ashley, Michael, and several other restaurant employees. Ashley was visibly shaken. She had lost weight, her hair was unkempt, and she avoided looking directly at Jason throughout the entire proceeding. Her lawyer tried to argue that she was going through personal and financial problems that led her to make misguided decisions, but the evidence against her was overwhelming. The recordings were played again in court, clearly showing all the thefts and the attempt to frame Jason. The employees' testimonies confirmed the pattern of harassment and suspicious behavior. Your Honor, said the prosecutor in his closing remarks. "We have here a clear case of a person who abused her position of trust to commit crimes for months, and when she felt threatened, she tried to destroy the life of an innocent man out of personal revenge." The judge, Judge Richard Thompson, an experienced man in his 60s, listened carefully to all the testimonies. "The gravity of the crimes committed by the defendant is indisputable," he said in his sentencing. "She not only stole significant amounts, but tried to destroy the life of an innocent person to escape the consequences of her actions. This demonstrates a total lack of character and contempt for justice." Ashley was sentenced to 4 years in a closed prison, in addition to having to repay all the stolen money with monetary correction and interest. She was also ordered to pay $50,000 in moral damages to Jason. Jason left the courtroom feeling that justice had truly been served. It was the closing of a painful chapter in his life. With the money from Mr. Anderson's settlement and the moral damages, Jason was able to completely transform his family's life. He paid off the mortgage on the house where they lived, paid for the best heart treatment for Mrs. Rodriguez, and enrolled his sisters in a quality private school. Emma, who had always been a brilliant student, got a scholarship to study medicine. Olivia discovered a talent for art and began taking painting and drawing lessons. Mrs. Rodriguez, with the proper treatment and without the constant financial pressure, showed a significant improvement in her health. She started smiling again like she hadn't in years. Jason continued working at Ocean Breeze, now as a service supervisor. His dedication and competence were recognized by everyone, and he became one of the establishment's most respected employees. The restaurant also benefited from the resolution of the case. Mr. Anderson's transparency in handling the situation strengthened the customers' trust. Many began frequenting the place specifically to support Jason and show they believed in his innocence. In September, 3 months after the trial, Mr. Anderson called Jason into his office for an important conversation. "Jason, I have a proposal for you," said Mr. "Augusto," Michael said, sitting across from him. "Tell me, Mr. Anderson." "I'm thinking about expanding the business. I want to open a second Ocean Breeze location on the south side, and I'd like you to be the general manager of this new location." Jason Taylor was surprised. It was an opportunity he had never imagined possible. "Mr. Anderson, I'm honored by the offer, but I have no management experience." "You have something more important than experience, Jason. You have character, honesty, and a deep understanding of how a restaurant operates. The administrative experience you can learn. And how would it work? You would be the general manager with a 15% share in the new location's profits. Furthermore, I would pay for a restaurant administration course for you to specialize." The offer was tempting, but Jason had grown accustomed to the security of being an employee. "Can I talk to my family before deciding?" "Of course, Jason. Take all the time you need." That night, Jason talked at length with Mrs. Rodriguez, Emma, and Olivia about Mr. Anderson's proposal. "Son," said Mrs. Rodriguez, "this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You deserve to soar to greater heights." "But Mom, what if it doesn't work out? We'll be without a steady income." "Jason," said Emma, "you've already proven you can overcome any difficulty. Remember everything we went through these past few months? If we got through that, we can get through anything. And besides," added Olivia, "Mr. Anderson trusts you a great deal. He wouldn't make this offer if he wasn't sure you could do it." Jason thought it over all night. The next day, he returned to Mr. Anderson's office with his decision. "Mr. Anderson, I accept the offer. I will dedicate myself completely to making this new location a success." "Excellent, Jason. Let's start the preparations immediately." The following months were intense. Jason divided his time between working at the original Ocean Breeze and the preparations for the new location. He took the administration course, participated in choosing the commercial space, the decoration, and the staff selection. The new location opened in March of the following year, exactly 1 year after Jason's wrongful arrest. The coincidence of the date didn't go unnoticed by anyone. The opening was an emotional event. All the employees from the original restaurant were present, as were many loyal customers. Jennifer Parker, who had become a great friend of Jason's, made a point of being there. "Jason," she said during the party, "look how far you've come. From victim of an injustice to successful businessman in less than a year. Jennifer, none of this would be possible if you hadn't fought to uncover the truth. I am eternally grateful for that. The truth always comes out, Jason. Maybe not always as quickly as we'd like, but it always appears. The new Ocean Breeze location was an immediate success. Jason applied everything he had learned during 5 years as a waiter, combined with his new administrative skills. The service was impeccable, the food excellent, and the atmosphere welcoming. In no time, the profits exceeded all expectations. Jason was earning more in 1 month as a manager than he used to earn in a year as a waiter. But financial success wasn't the most important thing to him. What really mattered was the feeling of having overcome adversity and transformed a traumatic experience into an opportunity for growth. Mrs. Rodriguez watched her son's professional growth with pride. Her health was stable, and she had returned to doing the activities she enjoyed, like tending to the small garden in their backyard. Emma was in her 2nd year at Columbia University and continued to be one of the top students in her class. She often said that the experience the family went through motivated her even more to become a doctor, to help other people. Olivia discovered she had a real talent for the arts. Her paintings began to be sold at a local gallery, and she dreamed of studying fine arts at the university. In July, Jason received an unexpected call from attorney Sarah Mitchell, his former public defender. Jason, I have news about Rachel Wilson. What happened, attorney? She was transferred to a halfway house for good behavior. She'll serve the rest of her sentence working during the day and sleeping in prison. I see. What about the restitution? She's paying $500 a month. With interest and adjustments, it will take many years to pay it all off, but the important thing is that she's paying. Jason no longer felt anger toward Rachel. Time and therapy had helped him process his feelings and move on. Attorney, I hope she uses this time to reflect on her actions and become a better person. That's a very mature attitude, Jason. It shows how much you've grown through all this experience. In October, 2 years after his wrongful arrest, Jason received an even more surprising proposal from Mr. Robert Anderson. Jason, I want to make a different proposal, said Mr. Anderson. How about becoming my official partner? What do you mean, Mr. Anderson? You've proven to be extremely competent in managing the 2nd location. I'm thinking of expanding to a 3rd and then a 4th, but for that, I need a partner, not just an employee. What exactly are you proposing? A 30% stake in the entire business. You would continue managing the locations, but you'd also participate in strategic decisions and overall profits. It was a proposal that would completely change the lives of Jason and his family. From a wrongfully imprisoned waiter to a partner in a thriving business in 2 years. Mr. Anderson, can I talk it over with my family? Of course, but this time I want to hear your answer by tomorrow. I'm in a hurry to expand. That night, the family gathered again to discuss the future. Son, said Mrs. Rodriguez, when you were born, I dreamed you would have a prosperous and dignified life. Even in the toughest times, I never lost that hope. Now, I see my dreams have come true. Mom, if I accept this proposal, our life will change completely. For the better, Jason, said Emma. You deserve this. We deserve this. And imagine how many people you can help when you're a business owner, added Olivia. You can give opportunities to other young people like you were. The next morning, Jason gave his answer to Mr. Anderson. I accept the partnership, Mr. Anderson. Let's build something even bigger together. The partnership was formalized in December. Jason was officially transformed from an employee into a business owner. The first decision he made as a partner was to create a scholarship program for employees' children. He wanted to ensure other families had the opportunities his family had. The second decision was to implement a strict transparency system in management, with security cameras in all areas and detailed financial reports. He never wanted another employee to go through what he went through. In March of the 3rd year, on the anniversary of his wrongful arrest, Jason organized a special event at the original restaurant. He invited all the employees, loyal customers, and people who had helped him during the difficult times. Exactly 3 years ago, Jason said in his speech, I was just a waiter who was wrongfully accused of theft. Today, I am a partner in a thriving business with 4 locations and over 100 employees." Applause echoed through the hall. But the most important thing isn't the business numbers. The most important thing is that this experience taught me that the truth always prevails, that honesty is rewarded, and that with determination, we can turn our worst moments into our greatest opportunities. Ashley, who was now assistant manager of the original location, approached him after the speech. "Jason, do you remember when I said there was something strange about Rachel's accusation?" "Of course I remember, Ashley. You were crucial to uncovering the truth." "At the time, I was afraid to push further, afraid it would seem like I was questioning the manager. Now I see I should have shouted, made a scene, stopped the entire restaurant if necessary." "Ashley, you did what you could, and it was enough to start the discovery of the truth. This experience taught me to always fight for what's right, even when it's difficult." Michael, the head chef who now supervised the kitchens of all locations, also joined the conversation. "Jason, can I confess something? On the day of your arrest for a few minutes, I believed the accusation." "Michael, don't feel bad about that. The situation was confusing for everyone. But I do feel bad. I had known you for 5 years. I should have defended you from the very first second. This experience taught me to never doubt the people I know and trust." Jennifer, who had graduated from law school and now worked as the company's attorney, watched the conversation with a smile. "Jason," she said, "do you have any idea of the impact your story had on me?" "How so, Jennifer?" "Seeing the injustice you suffered motivated me to choose to specialize in labor law. I want to defend other workers who go through similar situations." "I'm happy to know that our experience is helping other people." Mr. Anderson approached the group carrying a bottle of champagne. "Jason, I want to make a toast," he said, pouring glasses for everyone. 3 years ago, I almost lost one of my best employees because of one person's malice. Today, that same employee is my partner and one of the most respected business owners in the region." Everyone raised their glasses. "To truth, to justice, and to the transformation that can come from our worst moments," declared Mr. Anderson. "To truth, to justice, and to transformation," everyone repeated in unison. Jason looked around and saw all the people who had been important on his journey. His family, his friends, his co-workers, his clients, all united in that special moment. End of story. Now tell me what you thought of this story of overcoming injustice. Do you believe Jason made the right choices by forgiving and moving forward? What lesson did this story bring to your life? Share your opinion in the comments. I love reading every one of your messages. Don't forget to leave your like and subscribe to the channel for more heartwarming stories like this one.